What a fabulous and somber and sometimes even surreal weekend, of course, headlined by the Charlie Kirk Memorial in Glendale, Arizona. Estimates of 200,000 people showed up. There were 70,000 in one stadium. Offshoot stadium had about 20,000. Probably another 100,000 or more were just there to witness the moment. Of course, probably the most powerful moment of Sunday, which was viewed by almost 100 million people worldwide, was ERIKA KIRK saying, I forgive him. I flat don't know if I could have done that, but here's ERIKA KIRK.
That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
You could see, rightfully so, she had that moment of rage, fury, just before she said, I forgive him. But she did. Again, I don't know if I would have that much fortitude to be able to stand there and say that. She's probably a way better person than I'll ever be. Thank God for people like ERIKA KIRK and her husband, Charlie.
Most of all, God's mercy and God's love have been revealed to me these past 10 days. After Charlie's assassination, we didn't see violence. We didn't see rioting. We didn't see revolution. Instead, we saw what my husband always prayed he would see in this country. We saw revival.
That's what Charlie was all about. He was about the discussion, the debate, not with violence. Again, I don't know if I could be as big a persons as Charlie and ERIKA KIRK, but I'm glad they're around. Really makes you think in these times. Now, I would be more like Donald Trump. I got to be honest about it. Here we go.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, ERIKA. But now ERIKA can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Looking down, he's angry at me now. He wasn't interested in demonizing anyone. He was interested in persuading everyone to the ideas and principles he believed were good, right, and true. Before each appearance, he prayed these words, God used me for your will. Always said the same thing. Use me for your will.
So, Mr. Trump, and again, I get both sides of it. I mean, I try to not hate my enemy, but again, I want to defeat them. So you always got to walk that fine line of that. I think you need both sides of it at some point, at some times. You really have to step back and step up, and you just got to take the bull by the horns. But most of the time, you should have empathy, debate, discussions with those, and sit down at that round table and see what we all have more in common. And you'll find that that is much more the case. And once you start at that point, it's much easier to solve our differences. I love to see this. Myself and others have been calling for this. Trump and Elon Musk sat together for quite a bit at the Charlie Kirk Memorial and had discussions. Some are saying, and maybe and we've been asking for them to get back together for the good of the country. And hopefully they will set aside their little 5-year-old boy fight and get on with the business. As Charlie Kirk said, we got a country to save. We're not going to agree on everything. Everything's not going to happen as fast as we would like it. But hopefully these two will get back on the same page, because the 26 elections are coming up very fast. And we really need we need more of the direction we've been going. More of what Charlie Kirk wanted, more discussion of that. We'll get into it with Kelly Victory, the press conference today on autism, some of what Van Jones revealed about Charlie Kirk, what Kash Patel laid out at the FBI put out in an X post during the Charlie Kirk Memorial, maybe a Jasmine Crockett quote, which, if it wasn't for anybody pretty much but her or a few others, you would say no, it didn't happen. Soros put 10 million in the yes on 50, and you no, triple vote no on Prop 50, the power grab redistricting from Gavin Newsom. This and much, much more in the rest of the hour. Stay tuned. Yep. Oh, see, there we go, blank. Some of the more poignant things that went on this weekend. Kash Patel dropped this one. It was kind of strange that he would drop this during the Charlie Kirk Memorial, but he did. See if it will roll up on the big screen. Let's see. Boom, boom. Let's see if it does now. Why are you not rolling up? Oh, here we go. Yes. Oh, all the buttons are working really good today. There we go. We are meticulously investigating theories and questions, including the location where the shot was taken, the possibility of accomplices, the text message, confession, and related conversations, Discord chats, the angle of the shot, the bullet impact, how the weapon was transported, hand gestures observed by potential signals near Charlie at the time of his assassination, and visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours and days leading up to September 25th, Patel said on the next post. See why we are fading to black. Let's see. There we go. One thing, and two, the ones given the hand signals was Frank Turek, one of his pastors who was in the SUV when he was going to the hospital. He said he's grabbing his hat. The other one is his head security guy that's given the signals. So unless this is one of the biggest inside conspiracy jobs of all time, we can pretty much rule out the whole hands to two guys with the hand signals and something's going on when the shot goes off. Now, they do need to investigate all because there's a guy saying that it came from the right side and the muzzle flash from the right side and all that, or alleged or possible. Again, I thought it was kind of strange he came out with it during the Charlie Kirk memorial. But that's what it is. It's always interesting, strange. You don't quite know why people do things the way they do. But that was, again, that kind of struck me that he put that out there. They should, not that it shouldn't, not that she shouldn't have a post, but that could have came out today. Dana Bash calling out Jasmine Crockett, who's one, and I'm going to try to be nice again, one of the biggest trash talkers, race baiters, all around Esters. She's a congresswoman for Texas, hopefully not for very much longer. Hopefully she's out by 26 in the 26 midterms. But Dana Bash, of all people on State of the Union on CNN, pushes back on you know who, Jasmine Crockett. Here we go.
Ask you, because I do want to play a couple of statements that you made earlier this year. Okay.
Unfortunately, we have someone that is occupying the White House. And as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States. They want to show that they are loyal to this, you know, I don't even know what to call him. I've called him so many things, but this wannabe Hitler for sure.
And to be clear, the president has attacked, other people have attacked you in his orbit, maybe not him personally. But do you have a responsibility as an elected official not to raise the temperature, but rather lower the temperature, particularly when there are people out there who listen to elected officials all over the place who are not well, who use that as a way to instigate the political violence that you are calling out?
I think that my responsibility is to be transparent and to be honest. And the reality is that we are living in a time in which this administration and this regime is not interested in making sure that people understand history. We need to understand why they are so problematic. And so I am.
No, she wants you to understand her revisionist history is stuff that never happened, but's cooked up in her head. You know, if you believe the lie, you tell the lie long enough, people believe it. And the second part of that quote from Goebbels, the head Hitler guy, his number two man, was, and pretty soon you believe it. Jasmine Crockett, she tells lie after lie, misinformation, mishistory. Pretty soon she believes it. She believes her own press clippings.
Using that language because it is accurate language. When we see the consolidation of power, when we see them trying to chill speech of jokesters.
Again, the ding dong doesn't get it. Well, she does, but she doesn't care. She will keep using the insightful language, the Hitler, Trump's coming to get you, boogeyman, and the whole thing. Hates black people. Hates people of color, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Everybody's got a color, Missy. It's these agents of chaos. Jasmine Crockett is one of the head infiltrators of that whole enchilada. Van Jones, one of the Clinton groupies, was on CNN again with Anderson Cooper. And of course, Charlie Kirk talked to everybody that would talk with him, no matter what. Here's a little bit of that conversation.
I mean, this is extraordinary. So this was received the day before he was killed. Yeah, look, I mean, we were beefing. We were going at it online, on air. And then after he died, after he was murdered, my team called and said, Van, he was trying to reach you, man. What? And what was he doing? Dialogue. Let's be gentlemen together. He says, let's disagree agreeably. So I'm sitting on this and I'm watching the whole country talk about civil war, censorship, justifying murder about this guy?
Even Van Jones is saying, hey, no matter what you think about Charlie Kirk, he wasn't the evil torturer that the Jasmine Crockett's and the Antifa and the Tyler Robinsons and whoever were trying to cook up in their head. And we know eventually you keep that up, something's going to happen. And it did, unfortunately, to Charlie Kirk.
This guy is reaching out to his mortal enemy saying, we need to be gentlemen, sit down together and disagree agreeably. And the next day he's killed. And I've sat on it long enough and I just said, you know what? We're going to Memorial Weekend for this man. We disagree. Everybody knows we were not friends, okay? At all. But you praise the good when it's time to memorialize somebody. And what he did, and I didn't even know it, was good. He was not for censorship. He was not for civil war. He was not for violence. He was for dialogue, open debate and dialogue.
He was for open debate and dialogue. Words from Van Jones. He was not an evil person. What do we hear the drumbeat from the time of the assassination, from the Jasmine Crockett's and the trannies and the whole thing? Hitler, evil person, want nothing to do with that. There's your boy, Van Jones. Testifying to the character of Charlie Kirk, and could be testifying for the character of many, many, many others. As Charlie said, this has got to stop. There's no way in hell we're going to survive as a country if this crap keeps happening. The insightful language, and most of it, practically all of it, comes from the kook left. And they've been ratcheting it up, especially since Barack Hussein Obama, the racist in chief, showed them how to do it.
Got 1 minute, Roy.
As Sean says, we'll join my KMEP. Hopefully Kelly Victory will be calling in here in a few minutes. So be watching for that, Sean.
Yep, nothing yet.
And we'll see how we'll come on with the rest of the story. I'm very interested in Kelly's take.
30 seconds.
On the Charlie Kirk Memorial, but the autism announcement to do with Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy Jr. So we'll get into that and maybe a little bit more with Dr. Kelly Victory, hopefully, in a few seconds as we join the Mike T-Met.
All right, here we go, 10 seconds.
America, patriotswitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 in the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join our vast video audience on the Evil Hippie Network, Rumble, X, YouTube. Check us out on the Roy Bleckert channel. On that, just a note to Sean, the Zoom was giving me trouble, so I was on about, took me about 10 minutes, I was on about 10 minutes late, but just be prepared in case something goes haywire on that whole system. On that, we get the technical stuff out of the way. It's fascinating. The reaction from everybody from Van Jones to Jasmine Crockett to Kash Patel to Donald Trump to Elon Musk, and especially ERIKA KIRK. I forgive him. The most powerful statement, maybe in the top 3 of political history. Her husband just almost 2 weeks ago was gunned down in a political assassination. And she says, I forgive him.
Dr. Kelly is here.
And it was absolutely, man, you could feel the emotion turn, even of the 100,000 that were there and in the others, and another 100,000 outside, and the 100 million, I think, that were watching online. I think you could see the emotion turn on that point. But as we usually do on a Monday, we have, as I've determined her, the supreme physician and all the world expert on COVID-19 and just about everything else, Dr. Kelly Victory. Welcome to iNewsWire with Roy.
Hey, Roy, great to be with you. I watched the entire, I was not there in person, but watched the entire ceremony, memorial service for Charlie yesterday. It was quite impactful, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that, and you could see, at least from my take on, you could first see the disbelief, the rage in ERIKA KIRK, very understandably, but then she knew she had to say that because that's the way her and Charlie lived. That's what their whole life was wrapped around their faith, turning point, their family and everything else. And that's what they said. That's what they articulated. And like I said, when she said that, you could just see the whole emotion of everyone, I believe, practically everyone, except the 1.3% that are just going to hate no matter what. But it was just one of those, probably top 3 moments in all time that you lived through, Dr. Kelly.
Absolutely, and I know we've got lots of other stuff to talk about, but I do want to comment on this because it's so important. As a Christian myself, I can tell you that the concept of forgiveness is as much a gift to yourself as it is a gift to the person you're forgiving. Harboring hate or resentment or anger against someone who has wronged you is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. When you grant that forgiveness, you aren't saying, I forget or I absolve you of sin. That's God's job. You're simply saying, I am not going to let this hatred, this resentment, this anger impact me or degrade my life, my quality, my relationship with God or my family. So I forgive you. I am lifting this away from me. I'm giving it to God. You will meet your maker. That's God's job. Or you will meet the legal system. That's the court's job. But I am giving myself the gift of forgiving you so that it will no longer sap me of my energy, of my faith, and of my joy.
You bring up a very good point. That's a way, not that she will or most of us will ever forget, but that's more of a tool for you to move on, to do what you have to do, move forward. She's going to be running a very big organization now, Turning Point. She's got 2 kids to raise without a dad. She's got a lot of things on her plate. And just as in anybody that suffers a tragedy or loss of that, at some point, in order for you to be able to function as a human being, you need to move on from that, not forget, not ever wipe that memory out, but that's something, as you say, is probably was more healing for her than anyone else, Dr. Kelly.
Absolutely, and I think to make a segue to where we are right now in the world with regard to what's going on with healthcare and everything else is that part of the, no one is going to get over, I don't believe, their anger about what happened during COVID until there is accountability. It's the idea that you can hand it off and say, I forgive you. I am getting rid of this because I don't want to harbor this hatred and anger and resentment any longer because it's undermining my quality of life and my relationship with God. But the flip side of that is there has to be accountability. You're saying, I'm going to give it to the system or to God to take care of it. And part of what I think people are wanting in this country with regard to what we went through for the past now 5+ years is that accountability. People want to know that the Anthony Fauci's and Deborah Birx, of the world were held to account, that they actually did not end up getting off scot-free with, being able to destroy the lives and livelihoods of people with no, with really no repercussions.
Switching gears, I just caught clips of it, but Trump alluded to it at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. On top of that, the big announcement on autism, which came today with Bobby Kennedy Jr., HHS Secretary. So give us the debrief on the autism announcement at the White House, Dr. Kelly.
Well, I'll tell you, it was both perplexing and for me a bit disappointing. Although they danced around the edges, and I do believe that Robert Kennedy Jr. is absolutely sincere in his interest in exposing and cracking the cause of autism, which is clearly an epidemic now. And even with the president sort of mentioning things like vaccines and the rate number of vaccines that we give, they instead spent most of their time focusing on this, sort of newfound analysis of acetaminophen, Tylenol, potentially causing autism. And honestly, they know better. There may be an association, Roy, between acetaminophen and the development of neurologic injury known as autism, but it isn't the primary factor. Tylenol became in common use in 1948. It was used by pregnant women and children through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s when autism rates were fundamentally zero. Autism rates didn't skyrocket until the late 1980s. And that was a direct result of one thing, and that was the Childhood Vaccine Injury Act that caused the number and rate of vaccines in children to go up exponentially. So is it possible that there's an association, meaning a child gets a vaccine, develops a fever, and some irritability after the vaccination, so mom gives Tylenol, and the Tylenol potentiates or exacerbates the vaccine problem? Perhaps, but it isn't the Tylenol by itself. And the idea that they are suggesting that pregnant women shouldn't take Tylenol because they're of this concern, I think is ridiculous. Why weren't women, delivering babies with autism in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s? Because they sure as heck were taking Tylenol back then.
I didn't catch much of that, and I did see Trump was really on the Tylenol thing. Bobby Kennedy mentioned the vaccines in the clip I seen a little bit, more focusing or trying to shift it on that. But yeah, I was kind of expecting a more definitive announcement based on Trump's comments on Sunday of, yeah, we've actually got some things. And what was, I don't know, prophetic or whatever, Charlie Kirk had posted back in April that he had talked to Bobby Kennedy and they were going to have an announcement on this or have this, a major announcement or have this thing figured out on the autism by September, which this is September of this year. And they came out with it. But yeah, I was expecting some big headlines out of this, and I was thinking, well, like where is it? I mean, I didn't see it, so I was a little bit confused, but I wasn't able to watch the whole press conference. I was just catching clips of it, so I didn't know if I was missing something along the train or what, Dr. Kelly.
No, and I think that's what, I think they were, figuring out how to spin this. They couldn't come straight out and say the elephant in the room, which is the thing that changed, that it was coincident with the sudden uptick in autism rates, was vaccines. That's what changed. Prior to that, kids got a handful of vaccines, and Tylenol was there throughout all that period. So they're dancing around it. And I wish that they would have come out and said succinctly, look, we are concerned potentially about the relationship between Tylenol and vaccination. If anybody knows, the stories from mothers, it's Bobby Kennedy, and it's mother after mother after mother who comes and says, look, my child was fine, was meeting all the milestones, was absolutely normal, making eye contact, starting verbalization, all of those normal interactions until the day of that vaccine, whether it was at 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, and there was then a sudden and profound change. We came home from the doctor, the child spiked a fever, was irritable, was screaming uncontrollably, and never made eye contact after that. Those are profound stories, and they're not just anecdotes. They are tens of thousands of parents telling the same story. So, did those parents give Tylenol to the child? Possibly. And is that a factor contributing? Possibly. But the problem isn't then the Tylenol. The issue is the vaccination. Because during the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, pregnant women took Tylenol all the time, and children took Tylenol all the time, including, by the way, after their handful of childhood vaccines. But they weren't developing autism. So I'm a little bit, as I said, frustrated, because I was hoping they, like you, they led us to believe they were going to come out with the big bombshell, here it is. And then they sort of danced around a bunch of it. They made mention of the fact that, for example, the Amish, who don't get any vaccines at all, have a rate of autism that's fundamentally zero. Now, the Amish take Tylenol. They take Tylenol. So if the problem's Tylenol, why don't they have any autism in the entire Amish population? So they're dancing around this without being willing to call it flat out. I'm hoping over time, maybe they'll get a bit bolder.
And this kind of is strange with Trump's announcement, what was it, a week ago, where he was telling Pfizer, hey, you're telling me the vaccines are the greatest thing, greatest invention since the wheel. Now you're not releasing documents, cough them up. I mean, that was and then he made that announcement. Then do you think there's still some people putting the hammer on or trying to pull Trump administration in the vaccine corner, in the pharmaceutical giants corner or something? I don't know. It still seems, I don't want to run down the conspiracy trail again. It just seems kind of strange, Dr. Kelly.
I think that's exactly it, because he made that comment, the other day and posted about it, that he was open and willing to hear it. And I thought, wow, he's really opening the door. This is fun. So I thought when they were going to make this announcement today that they were actually going to do it and say, look, we have no choice but to really look long and hard at vaccines, because that seems to be the common theme. And instead they didn't. They kind of backed off. They pussyfooted around it. They danced around it. They kind of on the edges. They dip a toe in the water, and then they back off and talk about Tylenol and folate and all these other things. So, yes, I think that there are, I'm sure there are pressures, and it may have happened as, they seemed a little disjointed, by the way. For what was supposed to be a major press conference, they seemed a little discombobulated. And it could have happened, as far as I know, literally within the hours before they walked in the door, that they were getting some significant, you call it what you will, threats, incentives, pressure from, call it what you want, from somewhere saying, tone that down, we're not going to have it because there's big money involved in this. Let's face it. And listen, Trump isn't immune to that. He certainly has taken money from big pharma. There's, nobody practically in Congress who hasn't taken money. So it could have happened as soon as just a few minutes before they started that press conference, which, by the way, started about 45 or 50 minutes late, as it was. So who knows what happens behind closed doors, but they did not come out nearly as forcefully as I had hoped that they would with regard to the vaccine connection.
Another thing a couple things I wanted to discuss with you about as we move forward after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, of that, what's your sense? Are people moved a long way from 20 to 2024 from the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, to Trump and center-right Republican Party, of that? Kind of backed up a little bit once Trump's elected, which is kind of normal. Seems to be catching fire again. Maybe this is going to galvanize it. That too, where's your sense of what turning point and where we go through into 26 with that? And the second thing, and a lot of us have been calling for this, and Elon Musk and Trump sat together and talked for quite a bit at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And I've said these two need to put their 5-year-old little boy fight aside, because as Charlie Kirk said, we got a country to save. And both of those guys were instrumental in helping turn this country around. We need them back together along with Turning Point and every other asset we could get, because 2026 is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight politically, Dr. Kelly.
Well, I think without question, Roy, the assassination of Charlie Kirk did a lot to galvanize the movement, to bring younger people in particular, to kind of wake them up, to say, this isn't a joke anymore. This isn't sort of, I'm not that into politics. That's something I'll do when I grow up. To say, you need to grow up, and you need to grow up now, because, this is serious business. So I think that whoever was behind, and this is another question, whoever was actually behind Charlie's assassination miscalculated the effect. Because I think it's going to, as a martyr, he is a lot more powerful and has a lot greater reach than he ever did, as remarkable as his reach was when he was alive. I think one of the ongoing problems is the fact that they have not been honest about the details of Charlie's assassination. They clearly are lying about it. I don't think anybody could possibly believe that a kid on the roof with a rifle, did that. Nothing makes sense. The fact that somebody took all of these security cameras away, that they contaminated the crime scene, that there are just too many things. And I'll tell you, unlike the vast majority of people on this planet, I've actually seen not a handful, but thousands of gunshot wounds in my career. And I can tell you from my clinical perspective, what we saw on those videos appears to be an exit wound, not an entrance wound. I think that until there is honesty about what happened, we are at risk of losing the momentum of Turning Point over time as people become more discouraged and frustrated about what actually happened, who was behind it. And I think the government, and when that starts with people like Kash Patel, need to be very, very honest with the American people, or we risk, as I said, losing that momentum. Anyway you cut it, Charlie had a huge impact, tremendous impact worldwide, certainly in this country, and in his death, that is magnified.
Andrew Clovet, who was Charlie's radio producer, and the guy that's the big conspiracy picture, the guy that's taken down the camera, that's him. He said, or according to reports, and he said, I'm no medical doctor, that's just what they're telling me. They're saying that is an entry, or the physicians at the hospital said, it's an entry wound, came in, hit the spine, ricocheted down, went in, took down his organs, and then disintegrated, bounced up. hit his shoulder. Da, da, da. No, and he said that's, he said, I'm no doctor, nothing, but, he was on the scene, very, very close to the internals. So, I mean, I don't, take it for what it's worth. I mean, I'd say, let's just say 50-50 he's telling the truth, or he's probably telling that from what he got from them. I don't see why he would be lying about that. But that seems like again, maybe not quite as good as the JFK magic bullet theory, but it's getting pretty close, at least in my mind, Dr. Kelly.
Absolutely, and I have no reason to think that somebody on Charlie's team is lying. But there's a reasonably good chance that whatever doctor saw Charlie in that small community hospital may not have ever seen a gunshot wound in his life before. Your average surgeon, I trained at a level 1 trauma center where we saw 5 or 6, on a Saturday night, every single Saturday night, and at least a couple every night in between. It depends on where, so that physician may not have known. We certainly know that the physicians who were involved in the JFK assassination were told to lie, and lie they did, and they now have come clean all these years later. That they lied, that they falsified the x-rays, they've changed the autopsy. So if somebody wants to create a narrative, they can. I think there's an awful lot we don't know, and I think that we're just starting to get to it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm a realist, and I simply do not believe that the story that's being told is true. And I think that there are many people looking into that, so I'm not wasting any of my time going down those rabbit holes, but I do think that it's divisive and undermines the overall efforts of Turning Point. All that said, the number of requests for new Turning Point USA chapters, I think there was something like, I think we talked about, there's something like 9,000 chapters before, and they've had like 65,000 requests for new chapters. I mean, it is absolutely, if a fraction of those came to fruition, it would be tremendous. And if a handful of a few dozen, disciples come out of this who can go university to university, campus to campus, and continue Charlie's mission, that would be tremendous, because the vote in 2026 and onward really does lie with the younger generation.
Got about a minute left. Anything else our audience should know?
No, I think, they're predicting, wait for it, one of the worst flu seasons in history. So, they want you to run out and make sure you get your flu vaccine. They will continue to push this. The narrative is not changing. They would like you to believe that your only way to good health is through the next vaccine. I would suggest that people follow the basic rules for good health, with solid nutrition, regular exercise, adequate sleep, stress mitigation, and don't worry so much about getting your next vaccination. Healthy people will do just fine during this flu season, just like every other flu season.
Thanks for being on, Dr. Kelly. We'll do this again next week.
Thanks. Sounds good.
You got it, Dr. Kelly Victory, as we say, saying it only as she can. A lot of emotion this weekend. Again, it looks like, Charlie Kirk, and I agree with Dr. Kelly on this, is going to have much more impact from September 10th, 2025 forward, even as great as the impact he had in his 31 years before that. Let's all work to make that a positive direction, as Charlie worked for. And again, it's like what I said, prove me wrong. I've been saying that for a couple years, about 4 years. Charlie said that. We're all about the debate. It's amazing to me, especially, and I get that the kids, right, since I'm 64, they probably think I'm an old codger, don't pay attention to him. But the people of my generation and in there will not come in. And I would really love, as much as I liked it, as much as it is cool to be around people that are of the same mind. I really would love to have people of the opposite side, like old Amber was, who didn't even, who was preaching the basic racist Antifa stuff and used the word systemic racism and didn't even know what the definition of systemic was. Couple things. Jimmy Kimmel's going to be back tomorrow night. So the mouse folds. Turning Point USA launches the fall campus tour after the Charlie Kirk Memorial. So that's a good thing. Looks like TP USA is planning to move forward at the bigger pace. And that's what Charlie would have wanted. That was his vision. Was it started with him, but it wasn't going to end there. So I hope and I think that this will be a big motivating factor for a lot of people, because and that was Larry Elder's statement, but as Charlie said too, we got a country to save. And save it we will, because failure is not an option. And again, if we pick it up, Charlie lives. If we drop the ball, he dies. Take it away, Sean.
All right, Roy, take it easy.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but Zoom just was giving me all kinds of S trying to get on, but it finally did. I don't know. And it's been acting up on me for the past 2 weeks again.
Huh.
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Have you been getting any other problems, or is it just my lucky days?
Not really, no. Hey,
Okay,
did you know that you could actually have people call into Zoom from a regular phone?
Sure, you probably could, but
I've tested it out over this last week and it works. So, you have a phone number for each room, and then there's 3 numbers: the phone number, the room number, then the password number. And I've tested it out and it actually works. I've had people call in. So
I'll have to look into that.
It's just something to think about.
You got it.
All right, take it easy, Roy.
We'll see you.
Bye.